I stood at the altar in my white dress, smiling at my fiancé as I pulled out the hotel receipt instead of my vows. This is from the Four Seasons, room 402, where you and my maid of honor spent last night. Let me read what the concierge wrote. Couple seemed very familiar, requested champagne and rose petals. His face drained of color as I turned to our guests. There will be no wedding today, but please stay for the reception. I've already paid for everything, and I'd hate for good food and an open bar to go to waste. 6 months earlier, I was the happiest woman alive. Alex had proposed on our 3rd anniversary with a vintage sapphire ring that had belonged to his grandmother. We'd been together since college, built our careers in parallel, and finally felt ready to start our forever. The diamond and sapphire ring caught the morning light as I stirred my coffee, sitting at our kitchen island scrolling through venue options. "What about the Lakeside Gardens?" I called out to Alex, who was getting dressed for work. "They had a cancellation for June 15th. He peered in the doorway, fixing his tie. "June sounds perfect, but isn't that place expensive?" "A bit, but we've been saving." I sipped my coffee, and my parents offered to help. He walked over, kissed the top of my head. "Whatever makes you happy, babe. Just keep it under budget, okay?" I nodded, though something in his tone felt off, a slight edge I hadn't noticed before. But wedding planning was stressful for everyone, I reasoned. "Oh, and I asked Melissa to be my maid of honor yesterday," I said, referring to my best friend since high school. "She was so excited." "Great choice," Alex said, grabbing his keys. "She'll be perfect." He smiled, but something flickered in his eyes, too quick to identify. He kissed me goodbye, and I returned to my venue search, pushing away the strange feeling in my stomach. Melissa threw herself into her maid of honor duties with surprising enthusiasm. She insisted on handling everything from cake tastings to flower arrangements. "You focus on your dress and looking gorgeous," she told me over brunch 3 weeks after my engagement. "I'll coordinate with the vendors. I'm good at this stuff." "Are you sure?" I asked, touched by her offer. "It's a lot of work." "Please." She waved her hand dismissively. "What are best friends for, if not to ensure your special day is perfect?" She raised her mimosa. "To loyalty and friendship, the only things that truly last forever." I clinked my glass against hers, not noticing how her smile didn't quite reach her eyes, or how she checked her phone the moment I looked away. The first real hint came 4 months before the wedding. Alex and I were having dinner at home when his phone buzzed repeatedly. He turned it face down, but not before I caught Melissa's name on the screen. "Work stuff?" I asked casually. "No, just Melissa with some wedding questions," he replied, taking a large gulp of wine. "She's texting about venue decorations." "At 9 p.m. on a Saturday?" He shrugged. "You know how she gets with projects." I nodded slowly. It was true. Melissa was always thorough, sometimes to the point of obsession. Still, something felt wrong. When Alex went to take a shower later that night, I noticed his phone lighting up again. I didn't look. Not then. I respected his privacy. That was my first mistake. 3 weeks later, Melissa canceled our dress-fitting appointment at the last minute. "Emergency at work," she texted. "So sorry, reschedule for next week?" I was disappointed, but understood. Until I saw her car parked outside a cafe downtown when I was supposed to be trying on wedding dresses. I almost went inside to surprise her, thinking maybe her meeting had finished early. Then I saw Alex walk in and slide into her booth. My heart skipped. They were probably discussing wedding details. But why lie about being at work? I watched through the window as they leaned close, talking intently. Nothing overtly romantic, yet something in their body language set off alarm bells. When Melissa reached across the table and squeezed his hand, I felt sick. I walked away before they could see me, my mind racing. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe there was a reasonable explanation. Maybe I was becoming a paranoid bride. But the incidents kept piling up. Alex working late 3 nights a week. Melissa being unavailable on those same nights. Text messages deleted. Calls that ended abruptly when I entered the room. Small inconsistencies in their stories. "How's the wedding planning going?" my mother asked during our weekly call. "Good," I lied. "Melissa's been amazing." "She's such a loyal friend," Mom said. "You're lucky to have her." I made a non-committal sound, thinking of how Melissa had spent the previous day's cake tasting, making jokes about fidelity. "Marriage is about trust," she'd said, licking buttercream from her finger. "Trusting that your partner will always choose what's best for them." She'd laughed like it was the funniest thing in the world. I decided to trust my instincts. I didn't confront them. Not yet. Instead, I became observant, methodical. I noted patterns in their behavior, inconsistencies in their stories. I checked credit card statements and found nothing suspicious, which made me feel both relieved and foolish. Until I saw the hotel charge. It appeared on our joint account statement. Four Seasons, $479, on a Tuesday when Alex claimed to be at a business dinner. The hotel was only 20 minutes from our apartment. I called the hotel, prepared to hear that they had no record of him staying there. "Yes, Mr. Alexander Wright," the receptionist confirmed. "He's been a regular guest with us on Tuesday evenings for about 3 months now." My mouth went dry. "Does he come alone?" A pause. "I'm not at liberty to discuss guest details." "Please," I said, my voice breaking. "I'm his fiancé. We're getting married in 2 months. I need to know." Another long pause. I I could lose my job. I understand, I said quietly. But wouldn't you want to know? The receptionist sighed. He always arrives with the same woman. Dark hair, medium height, usually wearing expensive business attire. Melissa. The description fit her perfectly. Thank you, I whispered. Wait, she said. If you need proof, he's reserved room 402 for tomorrow night at 8 p.m. I spent that night staring at the ceiling, lying next to the man I thought I knew. The sapphire ring felt heavy on my finger, a beautiful lie. I considered confronting him immediately, but something held me back. I wanted irrefutable evidence. I wanted to understand the full extent of their betrayal. The next evening, I told Alex I was having dinner with my cousin. He kissed me goodbye, said he had a late meeting, and left at 7:30. I waited 15 minutes, then drove to the Four Seasons, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might break my ribs. I parked across the street and waited. At 7:55, Melissa's silver Audi pulled into the hotel parking garage. At 8:02, Alex walked through the front entrance. I sat there for another hour, numb, watching the hotel's elegant facade, imagining what was happening in room 402. I didn't go up, I didn't cause a scene. Instead, I drove home and made a plan. The next day, I visited the hotel during my lunch break and asked for the manager. I explained my situation calmly, without tears. I understand this is unusual, I said, but I need documentation of their stays. The manager, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes, studied my face. Normally, we couldn't provide that information. I know, I said, but I'm not asking for security footage or anything that could compromise your policies. Just a receipt showing they've been here, multiple times. She hesitated, then nodded once. Wait here. She returned with a printout of Alex's stays, 11 Tuesdays over 3 months, all paid on his credit card, all in room 402. Thank you, I said, folding the paper carefully. There's something else, she said quietly. She handed me a sealed envelope. The concierge wrote this. It's his statement about their visits, if you need it. I thanked her again, tucked both documents into my purse, and left with my dignity intact. That night, I checked Alex's phone while he showered. His text messages with Melissa had been deleted, but he hadn't been careful with his email. I found hotel confirmations, intimate messages, and plans for their future, a future that didn't include me. I took screenshots of everything and emailed them to myself. Then I replaced his phone exactly where I'd found it. Over the next few weeks, I became the perfect bride-to-be. I finalized details with Melissa, praised her organizational skills, and pretended not to notice when she and Alex exchanged glances. I tried on my wedding dress with my mother and didn't cry until I was alone in my car afterward. I considered simply calling off the wedding, walking away quietly. But something in me couldn't bear the thought of them continuing their deception, perhaps laughing at how easily they'd fooled me. They deserved consequences for their betrayal. A month before the wedding, Melissa organized my bachelorette weekend. As we sat in a rented beach house with my other bridesmaids, she raised a toast. To my best friend, she said, glass high. May your marriage be built on honesty, trust, and unwavering loyalty. My other friends cheered. I smiled and sipped my champagne, thinking of the evidence secured in my cloud account. You're such a good friend, I told her later. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. Please, she laughed. Your happiness is all I want. She actually believed it, I realized. In her mind, she'd rationalized their betrayal so completely that she saw nothing wrong with sleeping with my fiancé while planning my wedding. You know, I said carefully, Alex and I were thinking of postponing the honeymoon. Maybe taking it in the fall instead. Her eyes lit up for a fraction of a second before she composed her face into a mask of concern. Why, is everything okay? Everything's fine, I assured her. Just thinking it might be better timing with our work schedules. She nodded too enthusiastically. That makes sense. Very practical. Later that night, I saw her texting furiously in the kitchen, thinking everyone else was asleep. Planning their own getaway, no doubt. Using my postponed honeymoon as their opportunity. 2 weeks before the wedding, I met with the venue coordinator alone. I need to make some changes to the ceremony, I explained, but I'd like to keep them private until the day. She looked confused, but agreed when I outlined what I needed. I also met with the DJ, the photographer, and the caterer. Everyone was accommodating, especially when I explained that I wanted certain moments to be a surprise for my fiancé. The night before our rehearsal dinner, Alex and I were getting ready for bed when he said, I can't believe we're almost there. Nervous? I looked at him, this man I'd loved for years, this stranger who had betrayed me so completely, and felt oddly calm. No, I said truthfully. I'm not nervous at all. He smiled, relieved. Good. Me neither. The rehearsal dinner went smoothly. Melissa sat at the head table, playing her role perfectly. My father gave a touching speech about trust and partnership. Alex's best man told embarrassing college stories. I laughed at all the right moments and accepted congratulations with practiced grace. You seem so calm, my mother whispered. I was a wreck the night before my wedding. I know exactly what's going to happen tomorrow, I told her. That makes it easier. The morning of my wedding dawned clear and bright. I got ready with my bridesmaids, including Melissa, who helped me into my dress with tears in her eyes. You look beautiful, she said, adjusting my veil. Alex is going to die when he sees you. That's the plan, I replied with a small smile. She laughed, misunderstanding completely. As the ceremony time approached, I asked for a moment alone. When everyone had left the bridal suite, I opened my purse and took out the hotel receipt, the concierge's statement, and printouts of the screenshots. I folded them carefully and slipped them into a pocket I'd had sewn into my dress specifically for this purpose. The wedding coordinator knocked on the door. Ready? I took a deep breath. Absolutely. The ceremony space looked magical, white flowers, crystal decorations, and 100 smiling guests. Alex waited at the altar, handsome in his tuxedo, looking for all the world like a man in love. Melissa stood with my other bridesmaids, beaming with false sincerity. My father squeezed my arm as we prepared to walk down the aisle. You okay, sweetheart? You seem tense. I'm perfect, Dad, I said. Just focused on not tripping. The music swelled and we began our walk. I smiled at the guests, at Alex, at Melissa. I reached the altar and my father placed my hand in Alex's. His palm was sweaty. The officiant began the ceremony. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. I let the familiar words wash over me, waiting for my cue. When it came time for vows, Alex went first. He promised to love, honor, and cherish me for all our days. He spoke of trust and partnership. He had the audacity to let his voice break with emotion. Then it was my turn. I smiled at him, then at our guests. I reached into the hidden pocket of my dress. Alex, I began, I've been thinking about what to say at this moment for weeks, about the promises we make and what they really mean. He smiled encouragingly. I thought about reading traditional vows, I continued, but instead I'd like to read something else. I unfolded the hotel receipt. His smile faltered. This is from the Four Seasons Hotel, I said clearly. Room 402, where you and Melissa have been meeting every Tuesday night for the past 3 months. Gasps rippled through the audience. Melissa's face went white. I also have this statement from the concierge, I continued, my voice steady. It details how you always requested champagne and rose petals. How romantic. Alex reached for the papers. Emma, please, this isn't... And these, I said, producing the screenshots, are your emails discussing your plans for after I discovered your affair. How you'd claim temporary insanity from wedding stress, how you'd convince me to forgive you while you continued seeing each other in secret. Melissa stepped forward. Emma, you don't understand. We never meant to get caught, I finished for her. Clearly. I turned to face our shocked guests. I apologize for the deception, but there will be no wedding today. Alex grabbed my arm. Emma, please, let's talk about this privately. I removed his hand. We're long past privacy, Alex. You forfeited that right in room 402. You're making a scene, Melissa hissed. Her face contorted with anger and embarrassment. No, I corrected her. I'm making an announcement. And since you've both been so helpful with wedding planning, I've planned something special for you too. I nodded to the DJ, who played a pre-selected audio clip, a recording of Alex and Melissa discussing their relationship during my bachelorette weekend, when they thought I was asleep. Their voices filled the venue, crystal clear. When will you tell her? Melissa's voice asked. After the honeymoon, Alex replied. We'll say it's not working out. She'll never know about us. I watched their faces as their own voices betrayed them. Alex looked like he might vomit. Melissa's carefully applied makeup couldn't hide her mortification. Now, I said when the recording ended, I've already paid for the reception, the food is excellent, and the bar is open. I'd hate for it all to go to waste. So please, everyone stay and enjoy the party. Consider it my thank you for your support, and my goodbye to this chapter of my life. I removed my engagement ring and placed it on the altar. You can return this to your grandmother, Alex. Find someone who deserves her legacy. I walked back down the aisle alone, head high, ignoring the chaos erupting behind me. In the bridal suite, I changed into a simple white dress I'd hidden there earlier. I reapplied my lipstick, took a deep breath, and returned to what was supposed to be my wedding reception. The scene I found was exactly what I'd expected. Alex and Melissa had fled. My parents were speaking urgently with Alex's parents. Guests clustered in shocked conversation, but the bar was open and the band was playing. I approached the microphone. Thank you all for coming. This isn't the celebration we planned, but I hope you'll stay. I'd like to celebrate honesty, self-respect, and new beginnings instead of a marriage built on lies. Slowly, the mood shifted. My college friends surrounded me protectively. Alex's decent relatives came to offer awkward but sincere apologies. Even his best man stayed, admitting he'd had suspicions but hadn't known how to tell me. I'm sorry, he said. He didn't deserve you. No, I agreed. He didn't. The aftermath was messy, as I knew it would be. Alex tried to contact me repeatedly, alternating between apologies and accusations. Melissa lost most of our mutual friends when the truth spread. Both their families were mortified by their behavior. I moved out of our shared apartment while Alex was dealing with the fallout. I took only what was truly mine, leaving behind the furniture we'd chosen together, the future we'd planned. I started fresh in a new place, with new perspectives. 6 months after my non-wedding, I received a small package. Inside was my grandmother's bracelet, which I'd left behind in the apartment. With it was a note from Alex. "I'm sorry, you deserved better." I slipped the bracelet on, appreciating its return, but feeling nothing for the man who'd sent it. The anger had faded, leaving only clarity. I hadn't just lost a fiancé and a best friend. I'd lost the illusions I'd built around them. And that was ultimately freeing. A year to the day after what should have been my wedding, I returned to the venue alone. I sat by the lake where we were supposed to say our vows and watched the sunset reflect on the water. I thought about the woman I'd been, the woman I'd become, and the cost of that transformation. I took out the hotel receipt, the one piece of evidence I'd kept, and lit it with a match, watching it burn down to ash. I didn't need physical reminders anymore. The lesson had been thoroughly learned. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse of myself in the rearview mirror. I was smiling. Not the practiced smile of a betrayed bride maintaining her dignity, but the genuine smile of a woman who had faced devastation and emerged stronger, wiser, and finally truly free.